Dave. Do you mind if I ask you a personal question?
You're listening to the Youth Critic Podcast on KHZ Network.
I've wondered whether
Find us
you
on
might be
Facebook at
having some
Decibel UNG
second
Radio
thoughts
and
about
find us on
the
Twitter at Decibel UNG. If you like this episode, please leave a like and comment on our iTunes page at KHZ Network.
rumors about something being dug up on the moon.
And now for the podcast.
I never gave these stories much credence, but particularly in view of some of the other things that have happened, I find them difficult to put out of my mind.
Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Youth Critic Retrospective for the special.
Hello guys, I'm Justin Mayhew.
And today, for the special, in honor of the re-release, or IMAX re-release
The 50th anniversary.
of 2001 A Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick's classic, Justin and I are going to look back at the movie. I was the only one that got to, I'm the only one that got to see the IMAX presentation. Mm-hmm. And just to clarify, I did not see the 70 millimeter print. Right. I only saw the, I just saw like the 4K restoration
right.
DCP.
You saw the digital
IMAX,
or Pro Max or whatever it is.
Yeah. It's just, or DMR or whatever that is.
Right.
But yeah, so I just saw it that way, mm-hmm. And just to get right into it, it was a very wonderful experience.
Right.
I'm
jealous because I haven't seen it on anything but televisions of various sizes, but I've seen the Blu-rays and things like that, you know. So.
Yeah, I think, as we're recording the episode, I think it is gone from the Mall of Georgia, in most places, because Ken, which is like the new science fiction movie from Sean Levy's movie company, Ken, is out now, and it had an IMAX release.
Right, it's like a young adult adventure sci-fi thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Yep.
It's basically modern Stranger Things. I haven't seen the movie, but that's how it's kind of advertised.
Yeah. The commercials I've seen for it made it look like, I Am Number 4 or something, like Aliens or something.
Oh, yes.
They have a fancy gun that they get or something.
Yep.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there. This is 2001.
Yeah, well, we might talk about Ken eventually on the other show, but anyway, but it is actually, as I looked up, it's still going to play the Studio Movie Grill, which is not an IMAX, but I love the Studio Movie Grill in mm-hmm. Duluth. Mm-hmm. So it'll be there on Monday for because 7:00 showing. So if you still want to see the movie and you want to see like some version of it on screen, which honestly I think that is the way to see this movie.
Yes, I really wish I could.
I couldn't. I mean, I did see this on DVD 12 years ago, but I think it's worth seeing on the big screen at least once in your life, just so you can see the presentation. If you can see it on film projected, like 35 or 70 or IMAX 70, that would be, incredible. But still, I think just seeing it on the big screen, just so you can have the idea of what people were talking about back then. So, and also Kubrick makes his movies to be seen in theaters.
Right. Well, he's a classic filmmaker from the 50s and 60s in origin. So that was the primary way of seeing a movie in his day and age. And so my memory of seeing the movie for the first time was when I was a wee lad of about 6, and my parents were both students at Kent State University in Ohio, and they had a showing of it. They took them, all the nerds, all the science nerds and all the literature nerds went to the library and huddled around on one of those little fake wood-sided TVs on the cart, with the VCR, and they huddle in the dark watching it on a little 20-inch TV. That was my first exposure to it.
Wow. 20? Do you say 20-inch?
Yeah, like the old-fashioned.
Kind of like that Dell we're looking at.
Yeah, of course in those days the box for it was twice that size because it had the fake plastic wood.
Oh my
and
gosh.
So you're talking a 70s era TV, right? The knobs and everything, and a Betamax VCR,
Oh, okay.
This is the mid-70s, right?
Right, yeah. So I was thinking, y'all didn't, VHS, never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was early days of home video systems when people didn't have them in their home. The library had one, like maybe the only VCR in town, so had all the science and literature nerds went and watched the film at the library.
Nice, so you saw this was before Star Wars, right?
Oh yeah, this is like the year before Star Wars came out.
Okay, so wow, yeah, that's incredible because right after that year, 1976, I'm assuming
77, or 77. Star Wars came out. Yeah, because it was 75 or 76 when I saw this.
Okay. Yeah, that's wow. So all these I'm assuming sci-fi nerds are just science nerds.
They're science students, so they were science nerds and science fiction nerds. I'm sure they're and
cool.
the English and art dudes. All the post hippie people with their bell bottom pants and the scarves and things. Ironed hair. Some of these people actually had the tweed jackets with the pads on them. So,
nice.
On the elbow pads, but it was great, and I saw it, and I've watched the film numerous times since then. Always on TV, sadly.
Yeah.
But I love the film, and if you compare the special effects to Star Wars, which is a good comparison, 10 years later, give or take, right? We're talking a decade later. Like 2068 to 77. So.
Yeah, it's about 9 years.
And you look at the matte lines on the original version of Star Wars, on a decent-sized TV, you can actually see the X-Fighters coming in, and you can see the matte line cuts around them.
Yeah, because lighting-wise, it points it out.
And in 2001, the matte effects and the space effects are gorgeous. They're seamless. You can't see any, cut lines or matte lines or anything in it, even if you see it in a big format.
It's almost like a perfectionist directed and designed this movie.
Wow! Holy crap, you'd have thunk!
It's,
Mr. Million Foot of Film guy.
Yeah. So, speaking of Mr. Million Foot guy, my story is I saw this when I was 12 and was completely bored because, and I sat through all of it. Normally you would think, 12-year-old me would be just an hour into it. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. Let's shut this off. But no, I was now I wanted to see it, and when the space baby happens, or space child,
Star Baby
happens,
Star Babies,
and the movie ends, I'm like, I look at my dad who had sat through the last 40 minutes with me, and I'm like, and I didn't say this, but so I'm paraphrasing. What the fuck is going on in this movie?
You said that with your eyes.
Pretty music, pretty visuals, but I'm like, this is dumb. And now, 12 years later, I respect it a lot more. And to kind of wrap this up, to anyone out there, don't feel bad if you don't get it, or if you don't. You don't get it. Don't feel bad if this movie isn't for you. It's not. It's not for
everybody. No, it's not. But it's for weirdos like me.
Yes. Well, it's for people that want. Well, it's for people that are just wanting a bit more than just the 3-act structure. And so
it doesn't even follow a 3-act structure. There's more like 5.
It has 3 different
settings,
but
there's the first act you could say is the early hominid act. Then you have the Dr. Floyd act, right?
Right.
Then you have...
It's more segmented.
Yeah, there's chapters, and there's at least 4 chapters in this film,
Right.
Maybe 5 if you separate the voyage to Jupiter and then the descent into the monolith at the end.
The Stargate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, the Stargate supposedly opens in the monolith.
Oh, okay.
If you've seen Peter Hyams' 2010, he makes it more clear.
Oh, okay. I have not seen that one yet.
Yeah, it's the sequel. It's got Roy Scheider playing Floyd. All right, now he looks completely different because you have some English actor, I think, I'm not sure, but some dude playing Floyd in
William
2001.
Sylvester?
Sylvester, yes. He's an American then, isn't he?
I think he is.
But anyway, it goes. Suddenly, Dr. Floyd becomes Roy Scheider.
Yeah.
And the sequel is a lot more straightforward. It's a much more traditionally built political, psychological thriller.
It's more traditional
narrative, yes. Think like K-19 The Widowmaker and Red October with some spacey shit.
Okay,
for that.
Cool.
So, I mean, it's not bad. I prefer 2001 by a great margin, but it's still not a bad film. It's okay. It's also got John Lithgow and others in it like that.
Oh, boy, John Lithgow from Cliffhanger.
Yes, and Third Rock from the Sun, lest we forget.
So, I'm
sorry, I'll just wrap it up by saying that in 2010, if you're confused and you're still curious, 2010 does more plot filling in for you.
Okay. So it's kind of like those explained videos on YouTube.
Yeah. About 15 years before YouTube.
Yeah. So, making to my point, I can't remember what I was making.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. I had a good transition. So, speaking about Stanley Kubrick, so the production on this movie was very, very long.
Yes.
So this whole thing kind of started around 63, 64, I think.
Right.
At the time, Kubrick was finishing Lolita, or he was kind of in that ballpark.
Yeah, it was not long after Lolita, if right after. I don't know when the exact date was, but yes.
Go ahead and look. And Stanley Kubrick was kind of fascinated with extraterrestrial life, and kind of wanted to make kind of the definitive like extraterrestrial life because he kind of thought what the B movies of the 50s and even like oh gosh, I'm blanking on this director. Who's the director that did The Day the Earth Stood Still? Robert
Wise.
Yeah. He was like, come on, we can do better than this.
And also Forbidden Planet. Don't forget Forbidden Planet.
He looked at those kind of movies and like, come on, this is not really what extraterrestrial life is. So.
And Lolita came out in 62, so it was shortly after.
All right, so. Man, did he do Dr. Strangelove and Lolita in 62 or?
Strangelove.
While you look that up. So while that was happening, so he was developing it with Arthur C. Clarke, who is
64. So yes, he did Strangelove between the two.
Okay. So while that's happening, he was developing that, and originally, like Arthur C. Clarke sold him a bunch of short science fiction stories. Stanley didn't like any of them, so Arthur C. Clarke brought him back, and then I think Clarke wrote a novel.
It was a short story at first.
Oh, okay.
The 2001 novel was wrote concurrently with the film.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Little confused on the details.
Yeah.
Again, kind of Wikipedia is not always great.
No, but I read the novel too.
Is it any better?
It's about the same, but it since it's a novel, it does explain some more.
Okay.
Like for instance, Hal, goes insane. Are we going to spoil this film for those people?
Let's hold that for a little bit, but. I mean, just go ahead and tell him minor details.
The explanation for why Hal did what he did is more clear in the novel and also in 2010.
Okay.
They actually have some of the characters literally, explicitly explain what was wrong with Hal in the first one.
So exposition galore.
Yeah, in the second one, yes, and in the book. But if you're going to do it, you might as well know.
Well, I mean, in the book, it kind of makes sense because you have to describe everything. So, when you write that, you have to kind of describe like what's happening. So that kind of makes sense.
Okay.
But so Kubrick was putting this together, and then finally he got the funds to do it from MGM. And on top of that, he had agreed to shoot this on 70 millimeter film, the big super Panavision cameras, because at the time of making 2001, the 70 millimeter like roadshow previews or the rollout was huge. Like, it was a big deal. It was kind of coming to an end later in that decade, like in 69, 70s. But I mean, this was still at the as it was, a popular way of marketing a film. So, because how people marketed movies was not only did they release trailers, but they also did this whole rollout, on 70 millimeter reels and like limited theaters around like
the roadshow, as you say, as you put it,
in metropolitan areas.
Yeah, it's not in a megaplex. It's in a theater. There's a bunch of pomp and circumstance around it. Lots of decorations, and they show it for a limited period. Then it moves to the next town.
Yeah. And they would it's not like they're cramming it to like a small 300-seat theater. No. They're projecting it in like theaters like the Fox in Atlanta.
Those real movie houses, those palaces as they used to call them. And it was impressive. And the 70 millimeter was impressive, especially when you saw it on a gigantic screen like that.
Yeah.
And you get those epics, those Spartacus and Ben-Hur epics that are shot on Super 35 or 70 millimeter, and that's what they were in those days and age, which we don't do those kind of epics anymore, really, to speak of.
We don't do. Well, we still do them. It's just the way we do them. Is
right. Different. They don't have the casts of millions like they used to.
Yeah. Well, like you just the way we're kind of describing it's kind of like how award contenders are done nowadays. But I mean, we still shoot movies on big scales. I mean, technically, you can say the Red AK is like shooting on a.
But the sets are smaller. That we do a lot of CGI.
We do a lot of. We shoot in a lot of cover sets.
Yeah, and then you have green screens and you add extra backgrounds where they would have gone to Tunisia or something and shot at an actual coliseum in those days.
Right. Well, and also they would shoot in big sound stages because those were the places where they could have
and
large,
make huge sets. I mean, huge physical sets. Yeah.
Like the set where they shot the in this movie where they shot like the monolith is down like 40 feet below the surface level of the moon, and they wanted to shoot that scene like almost as like realistic as you could, and there was no really outside environment that could do it, so they had to do it in a soundstage in London. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Probably Pinewood. Probably Pinewood Studios.
Maybe. I know it wasn't Elstree, but
I mean, that, Pinewood, and there's a third one that I can't recall right now.
So, and they shot 2001 from December till like September December of 1965 till September of 1966, because everything just took a long time, and they did as much in camera as possible.
Excuse me.
That's why that's why everything looks really good on set, because they literally they were still figuring out how to do like the girl walking up the ceiling to get to the captain. Because the way Kubrick shot a lot of stuff is he did it all like static, one shot, where the actors are pretty much doing all the work and the special effects and using a lot of that Ferris wheel method of filmmaking, which is you just strap the camera in and you just like let the actors just walk on ceilings, walk wherever, while the camera is rotating with with the set. So, and that's how a lot
basically
of it,
big hamster wheels. Yeah, he did that a couple of times, like in the main Discovery spaceship set with the wheel, right?
Right.
Then they also had the same effect they used for the stewardess.
Yeah,
the
that's
flight attendant bringing, they did
bringing
the
juice,
the dinner to Dr. Floyd. And also another simple thing they did was when his pin is floating out of his pocket, they just glued it to a pane of glass and had some grips going.
Yep.
I mean, simple. Nowadays, you would go through those big rigmarole of shooting plates and then having some dude, paint it in digitally.
Right.
You do that on set, just a piece of glass.
And even on this rewatch, I did not notice the glass. That's how good it is.
No, you could see that there's resistance when she pulls it out of the air. that the glue, if you very carefully pay attention, she has to, you see it
and you
snap.
kind of hear it a little bit.
I don't hear it. I don't hear it. I just see it.
Maybe it's just my mind.
Yeah, it could be because they didn't record the sound of it.
Right.
Recording. So, but you can see it just barely. If you're not looking for it, you might not notice it. But you can see her kind of.
And they said if she would have twisted it a little bit more, it would have such a pull.
Yeah.
Because I was watching some documentaries about this.
And it was Shepperton Studios and Borehamwood Studios that they shot.
Okay.
Studios.
But yeah, it was, so yeah, it just took a while, and then they edited for like over a year and a half, and even like as the movie was premiering, doing the road show, they had originally a 161-minute runtime. Mm-hmm. And what happened was Kubrick and Kubrick's kind of known for this. Like, Kubrick will kind of show the movie to a big audience, and then maybe like over a weekend or a day, like he'll be like, okay, just take this out, just take this out before it goes like wide. Same thing kind of happened on The Shining, where Kubrick literally was premiering The Shining Friday night in New York, where Brian De Palma and a few other filmmakers and film critics got to see it. And literally, like overnight, an assistant editor had to go by all like the houses, like in New York and New Jersey, to basically cut out the 19 frames out of the movie. That changed the entire like emphasis of the ending. So maybe it was more frames than that, but I mean that's just that's the story I hear. So in this situation, Kubrick cut out like 19 minutes,
right.
Like within a week of this movie. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is just like more of the same thing. We were like, it's not like plot stuff that he cut. It was just some kind of more special effects stuff and whatnot.
Yeah, and extra shots of space life. Mm-hmm. There's a school scene apparently that they shot.
Okay. Like
a grade school scene.
Right.
That they put in, but it's gone now. So.
Yeah, and I mean, and people.
I never saw that version.
I don't think they've ever released the footage.
Kubrick claims that he destroyed the negatives on which that series of scenes was based. So,
which is kind of a shame. I always have a problem with filmmakers that destroy just footage. But then again, I mean, a lot of filmmakers are. I would say it's the blame is on a lot of filmmakers. A lot of it's on the studio that just like they just cannot keep the reels in their archives
it's
forever.
That too, yes. Archival issues, tons of rolls of film in the ocean, in the Pacific Ocean. So
So
and also there's artists going back. Franz Kafka told his editor to burn all his manuscripts when he died. So if you took Franz Kafka at his word, we would not have any Kafka-esque stories to read.
Yeah, but it's just, I mean, I always just, it hurts a little bit, but I mean, as long as we still have the movie, I guess it's fine. So yeah, for all you people that got to see Kubrick's movies on like opening night, you guys got special treats. But yeah, the movie opens and it's kind of a mixed reception. Some people liked it. Go ahead.
No, I'm just agreeing with you.
Some people liked it, and some people were literally walking out of the movie like, "What the fuck is this bullshit? What is this? What's this silent movie bullshit?"
Yeah.
And they were about ready to pull the movie off of in theaters. They were ready to pull it out, but then they started noticing, like in California and like places where hippies were popping up.
Yeah, let's go watch the movie on some LSD, man.
Yeah, they noticed that people were coming in, like in watching the movie while
altered,
high.
Altered slightly.
Yeah. So that kind of carried the success of, much like Blade Runner, as we were discussing earlier.
Yep. That it was a slow burn, that it wasn't as appreciated as it is now. Yes.
I don't think
either one. Yeah, Blade Runner or 2001 both took a while to gain the clout that I have now. Right.
Yeah, I wonder. today, like what will be like popular in 10, 20 years from now. Something tells me, because of how Batman v Superman's reaction is kind of growing, like how people are kind of starting to look at the director's cut of that movie a little bit more fondly, that might be one. But I'm always curious what will eventually be, the movie that was kind of considered a flop, and then people, and then like 20 years later, people are like, this is a classic. How did you assholes, not see it?
It's hit or miss. I mean, at those days in the early 80s, Ridley Scott had already had a decent hit with Alien, So.
And technically The Duelist. Critically hit. I mean, well, The Duelist was like, it wasn't like a box office hit like Alien, but it was still like a modest hit.
Yeah. And then there was, Star Wars, of course, during that era that was shadowing these things out at the time. Mm-hmm. And Spielberg coming up with Close Encounters of the Third Kind was, a big box office hit, as well as E.T. So,
Which, good luck finding the theatrical cut of Close Encounters.
Yeah. But Ridley, the 1980 was it 92? 82 when Blade Runner first came out?
82.
So yeah, it was right around that era. Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi were within a year or two of that. E.T. was the year before Close Encounters, and so it was a little bit of a darker kind of a sell. It was, I think, the whole cybernetic stuff of the 90s, helped it, because it was a little early, you started getting a lot of that stuff later, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it also helped. I think for a lot of films it's just time. And also the thing with Blade Runner and basically almost every movie that came out after E.T. is they all had to live in the shadow of E.T., which was kind of like having the same growth success rate as like Titanic or Avatar, where it opened modestly and then it just like ballooned into like the highest grossing movie of all time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think, it's just timing and whatnot. I mean, I think It's a Wonderful Life was considered a flop when it came out, right?
Is that Jimmy Stewart's?
That's Jimmy Stewart.
Well, according to me, it still is a flop. But give me The Wizard of Oz any old day. I'll take that's my Christmas movie.
Okay. Oh, because of the dandruff thing where they're all falling asleep in the...
No, it's because TNT and TBS used to show it all the time at Christmas as well.
Oh, okay.
They used to have Christmas marathons of The Wizard of Oz when I was a kid, so...
I wonder what TNT's up to nowadays.
I don't know. I don't watch TNT much.
Okay. So anyway, you know what? Let's actually talk about the movie. We've talked about like...
Whoa. We went on our own little trip there, didn't we?
Yeah. So we were talking about this beforehand. You kind of brought up the fact that the movie is kind of segmented into like 4 or 5 different acts.
Yeah, I think that there are 5 acts or 5 separate little mini stories in the film. It doesn't follow the normal, 3-act structure, that they each have their, beginning, middle, and end on their own. You have the hominid story, the early hominid story, where they become enthralled by the first monolith. Mm-hmm. Then you cut to Dr. Floyd on his trip to the space station, and his first encounter with the monolith on the moon, right? Then we cut to a third story of the journey to Jupiter, right? Mm-hmm. And Hal's, malfunctioning there and going bonkers, and then am I on the 4th or 5th now?
I think you're on the 4th.
And the 4th is the trip through the Stargate.
Oh, I mean, like you were on the 4th, like with Hal falling apart.
Yeah, but then Bowman goes into the monolith at the end, so that'll be the 4th story.
The Stargate part. Well, everyone calls it the Stargate.
Yeah. The Stargate that's brought about by the monolith existing in orbit around Jupiter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then it ends with him basically seeing his life before his eyes as the monolith. I guess this is what I think of the ending. And fuck it, we're now in spoilers.
Spoilers!
It's a 50-year-old movie, folks.
Yes. Dave, I can feel my mind going.
Yeah. To jump around the ending, for me the ending is the monolith is showing him life before his eyes. As like every cut or every different angle, not cut, different angle.
Yeah, every new angle.
It shows
section of the room, like the up to the bed where he's dying. Yeah, it's a super stylized montage of him living in the alien zoo.
Right, and then the monolith at the end of his life is reincarnating him to be
teaching him, making him the Star Baby. He's the new version of Homo cosmosis.
Homo sapien.
Well, Homo sapiens cosmosis.
Right. So now he is. So now, Bowman. That's right.
Bowman.
Dave Bowman.
Dave Bowman. Yes, Dave Bowman.
Bowman is now going to become either the new species of Earth, or he's basically going back into time to start the species we're currently at right now.
I believe it's supposed to be an evolution.
Okay.
He's supposed to be going, into the stars as the new kind of man.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Fair enough. All right.
Which is actually quite explicitly stated in, guess what? 2010.
Yeah.
In fact, the Star Baby comes and visits Bowman's mother in a retirement home.
Oh, okay.
So it's definitely going into the future, because he's, after he's gone to Jupiter and been, lost in space, he comes back and comforts his institutionalized, his institutionalized mother. Invisibly, he combs her hair.
Oh, okay. Yeah, folks, I did not get to see 2010 yet.
Maybe you should try it. We can talk about that one then too.
Since it came out 1984, right?
84. It sounds right. Yeah.
Why don't you look?
Yeah, I'll look it up.
Maybe next year we'll do that podcast. 84. I'm already building a list of movies.
1984. Are you going to put 1984 in 1984?
I think we're going to do... Oh, no. In 2019, there's just like a laundry list of movies I want to cover. There's already a laundry... Not to skip ahead, but there's already a laundry list of like retrospectives I want to do in the next 2 months. Because I want to kind of cover the Predator franchise before Predator comes out. And then I want to...
Is that a reboot? Is it going to be like...
I think it's a soft reboot.
Soft. Okay, so it's still the continuity is going to be maintained.
I think they're continuing the continuity maybe after Predator 2, maybe. I can't quite remember. My friend was telling me like what was in the outline of the movie.
Of which? Sorry.
Of this new Predator movie. Okay. My friend saw like a leaked outline, and it's either going to be a sequel to Predator or a sequel to Predator 2. Like it's gonna follow that continuation.
Yeah, the actual it's gonna be set in the Arnold Schwarzenegger universe of Predator.
Well, technically, Predator 2 does sit in that Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right? Yeah. That's what I'm saying. But they didn't get him for that. It was
they got Danny Glover.
Danny Glover was
and Gary Busey.
Yeah. And I saw that movie, but I don't remember a lot about it.
I saw that movie when I was like 8 or 9, and I was like weirded out then. And it has like one of the best edits in cinematic history, as I remember. Do you remember in Predator 2? And I promise I'll bring this around. Do you remember in Predator 2 where like he's fighting like the king? Where Predator's fighting like the king that's Jamaican or something?
No, I don't recall any of that.
Well, the king has like a katana, and then the Predator has his own like little sword.
Right.
And they go to fight, and then it cuts to like while he's like running to the fight and screaming, it cuts to the king screaming, but his head is completely off, and the Predator's like got his holding his dreadlocks, or holding his head by his dreadlocks, and it's like a fucking good edit. And the reason why I bring that up is because there's a really good match cut. Some would argue the best edit in cinematic history.
We're talking about the bone cudgel to the satellite.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. The hominid throws the bone into the air.
Right, and as it falls, match cuts to one of the spaceships that's surrounding Earth, kind of coming into frame.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's a really good cut. Almost as good. My favorite edit will always be in Lawrence of Arabia.
The match.
Yeah, the match. Yeah, because for a second I forgot Peter O'Toole's name.
Peter O'Toole, yes, but the match is the important thing in that shot.
That's to me my favorite edit.
Another great film in a similar time to late 60s.
And also had the roadshow thing.
Yes, that was a common way of doing those big movies,
big
at
epic
the time.
scale movies. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But 2001 was, I think, a pretty darn good movie. It's, I would say, not easily, but it's possible that this is my favorite Kubrick film. That 2001 is my favorite.
I still have to watch his filmography.
Have you seen Clockwork Orange yet?
No.
Okay, well, that's the one everybody. If you say Kubrick, that's the first one everybody thinks about.
Really? Because I would have thought this one or Strangelove would have been.
It's Clockwork Orange and then Strangelove are the ones that people usually think about.
Okay, I know a lot of people talk about The Shining, but I think they talk about it because of Stephen King and Kubrick's feuds.
I think The Shining is a pretty good film. The only Kubrick film that I don't have a great love for is Eyes Wide Shut. That's the only one that doesn't completely work for me.
Yeah.
Paths of Glory is good. Lolita, that's good.
Spartacus?
Spartacus, I like Spartacus. And it's also, Spartacus is an example of the first career that Kubrick had where he was actually working in Hollywood.
Okay.
And this is where
he made this within Hollywood too, didn't he?
No. After Spartacus, he got fed up with it and fled to England. Too sweet. So everything after that, Lolita, Paths of Glory was before. Lolita, Strangelove, 2001, Clockwork Orange, The Shining, Full Metal Jacket.
Barry Lyndon
is all London. Is all outside of Hollywood system.
Okay. All right, because
he became like the world's biggest indie filmmaker at the time because he made a couple of films in the Hollywood system, and then used their resources to do his own thing.
Yeah, and he essentially when he did, I think I want to argue that The Shining was a Warner Brothers production.
Sure, they financed it.
Okay.
But he does what he wants to in England. He doesn't work with Hollywood crews. He doesn't work with Hollywood unions in the same way that
it's kind of like David Fincher,
or George Lucas, where he decided to make his split with the
Fox and Paramount
and the guilds, where he started doing non-union pictures, right? Mm-hmm. So that Lucas and Kubrick both had their big breaks with the Hollywood system. And Lucas did it after the first Star Wars. Mm-hmm. Kubrick did it after Spartacus.
I think I said on the Solo or Last Jedi podcast that I don't know if I'll ever find a way to talk about Star Wars again unless there's a new movie out. But I think before we get Episode 9, I think I might kind of redo my retrospective on that.
Of the first series?
Of all the movies.
All the movies, yeah, all that. Including the
prequels,
the prequels, the new series that they've been doing now with Rey and
Finn, Poe, Kylo, Rose.
Rose. Okay, so she's one of the break points of the new film. I think I actually liked Rose as a character myself.
I do too. Yeah. I think. Well, I love Last Jedi. This is interesting. We're talking about one of the best epics of sci-fi, and we're just jumping to other movies. But to finish it up, I just like this whole new trilogy. I like it even more than the spin-offs, which I thought I would love the spin-offs. I thought I would love Rogue One and Solo, and those movies are fine.
Yeah.
But for me, I kind of like what Rian Johnson and Abrams have done with these new movies.
I'm still a big fan of The Empire Strikes Back. Yeah.
Oh, I think everyone will always will hold Empire to that regard, but I think these new episodes are doing I think they're doing justice. They're doing justice to Star Wars in a way I don't even think Lucas could do, because I don't think Lucas quite understood his own movies.
I mean, they're definitely better than the prequels, but they're like the whole Return of the Jedi, the ending, the Rebel fleet is trying to escape from the New Order, the First Order.
Oh, you mean the Resistance? Yeah,
Resistance. But the Rebels. Come on, it's the same thing.
I know.
They're recycling again.
I know.
But they're going, look, we're trying to make it to that planet, and if they make it to the planet, they're safe. Even though the First Order can clearly see the same planet they're looking at. They're all in eye line of this planet they're going to. How are they going to hide?
Yeah, I mean, The Last Jedi, like, I know the movie
There's
has
some plotting
problems.
issues with it, I have to say. Yes.
I know, but I mean, that's kind of typical of Rian Johnson. Rian Johnson kind of doesn't really give a shit about plot. If you look at Johnson's movies, like, like Looper, because Looper also has, like, plotting issues as well, but, I mean...
And it's also a terrible movie.
I like it, but, I mean, if you look at Looper, if you look at Johnson's movies, look at me, I'm talking about a movie I never really wanted to talk about again, but here...
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that.
No,
Jeez.
here. But the thing about Johnson is he's more interested in what characters are doing and the themes that he's trying to hang all these moments on. Or, like, the plot, he's trying to hang on the plot. So if the plot doesn't quite work in a Johnson movie, it's because he's more concentrated on the themes and character motivations and stuff like, and trying to also make a movie that will surprise you. Because, while sometimes subverting expectations doesn't work, I mean, Jurassic World is infamous for killing a bridezilla because she was a bitch, and not watching Nick Robinson and Ty whoever, I can't, the other kid.
Yeah.
So, and then, giving Vincent D'Onofrio an off-screen death. So it doesn't always work, but I mean, I felt like The Last Jedi did a really good job of subverting expectations, and if Colin Trevorrow was still involved with what would be Episode 9, now we have J.J. Abrams directing Episode 9.
Right.
I think Rian Johnson did exactly the best part, because really now the goal of Episode 9 is just to finish the trilogy. That's it. Just round out the trilogy, which is now in the hands of Abrams. So anyway, back to 2001. So the special effects were kind of ahead of its time and was kind of a selling point of the movie.
Oh, certainly. They're gorgeous. The movie is gorgeous. I mean, if you can't understand the plot, it's definitely eye candy, no matter what.
It is. It's, I kind of said this before. It's kind of like watching ballet.
And you have to get an appreciation for ballet too. A lot of people nowadays don't get ballet either.
Yeah, I'm not, and I am no expert at ballet, but I mean, and what I mean by it's like watching ballet is it's very much, you have to be, like when you watch ballet or watch any kind of theater, you kind of have to be in a certain mind, certain mood, maybe, smoking a little doobie. You kind of have to be in the mind, you have to be kind of in a higher class mindset, if that makes any sense.
And so you have to think about it.
Yeah.
Some people will say you have to put your thinking cap on.
You can't do what a lot of people do nowadays, like with, I hate to throw this under the bus, but with Twilight or some of the Marvel movies.
Yeah, superhero movies or the romantic vampire movies. You go and chop your popcorn and either see who gets blown up or who kisses whom, right?
Yes.
And you don't do that in 2001.
No, I mean, it's fine to have a nice soda, or it's fine to have or a nice beer.
Right, but you're not going to get, boy meets girl and girl kisses boy, and
it's
more the bad guys get blown the heck up.
Yeah, it's more complicated than that.
Yes.
It's more It's more AI meets two good-looking kids or two good-looking men, and the two good men want to get rid of him, so he's now in a struggle to get. So now computer wants to destroy the two men and the other passengers that are asleep with him, and that's the plot. or that's one of the plots.
That's the plot of the majority of the film.
Yeah, I mean the main plot of 2001 is the monolith has kind of come back.
Yep.
After being gone from millions of years, after basically teaching what's the ape's name?
Are you talking about the character? Or are you talking about the creatures?
The ape's name that you mentioned.
I just call them early hominids because they're.
Oh, okay.
Early relatives of us, roughly a million years ago or something, and then it guides our evolution, through teaching them how to become culturated, right?
Right.
And then we see Floyd and the other scientists have excavated a second monolith on the moon, and that's the test. Once we get there and expose it to daylight, it sends a message to the third monolith.
Yeah. It transmitted a whole other monolith to Jupiter, and thus, after an hour of waiting, we finally get to Bowman, we get to Poole, and then Hal.
Yep.
And they're on a journey to basically get to Jupiter to see what the message is. They don't know this. They don't know that there was there of this monolith thing, but they're going.
Hal is aware of it.
Hal is.
Yes.
Hal is, but he's. Never mind. Hal, let's just say this. Hal is aware, but, he's kind of like the rest of the crew. Like, he doesn't really know what the mission. Doesn't know what the mission.
Yeah, but he knows more than
what will
crew
happen.
Does.
Yeah.
Another thing about 2001 is it predicted the establishment of iPads.
Yes. It predicted a lot of things, even though it's funny to see Pan Am logo and the IBM.
Right. Yep.
Even though
and the groovy 60s BBC logo on there.
Yeah.
But that looks an awful lot like an iPad, buddy.
It does. It's a little bigger, but
yeah, but I mean, you can see that it's got it's just basically a roughly 16:9 screen with a little black frame around it and a couple of buttons, and that looks like maybe it's one of those modern laptop where the foldable like a laptop with the
And sometimes airport food does look like the food that they're eating, so or airplane food, I should say, does look like the kind of like processed gelatin.
Yeah. And astronaut food does look like that. It is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they kind of have to because that's a real better way to store it and whatnot. So really the most compelling part of the movie, and I think this is what kind of inspired Nolan and a bunch of other filmmakers after this, is, Hal basically going out of control because he's trying... Because what he does cleverly... This is what I think Hal was doing. He's testing... When he brings up the questions, I have problems with the mission, I have problems with... He's testing Bowman to, see if he has any doubts or regrets or any, blanking on the word, any,
Second
thoughts about the mission. And Bowman doesn't really seem to have any.
No, and he doesn't know the things that the people in cryosleep or Hal knows. Right. They're going to put him to sleep before they even, talk about the monolith, right?
Right.
So Poole and Bowman are just like space janitors. It boils down to, they're the guys that make sure everything runs. Yeah, they're the space janitors. They're the engineers on the ship. The actual survey, scientific, military team are the ones that we never even meet. They die.
Yeah.
So the first contact with alien life forms with a space janitor.
Yep. And so he's, so once he kind of gets a read, and I think he accidentally misreads Bowman's reactions, and thus starts the path of, well, there's something wrong with the satellite. It's gonna, fizzle out in 72 hours, and so go check on the battery thingy, and thus that kind of starts the domino effect of, hey, there's something wrong with Hal, but the reason why they don't just before replacing the thing shut down Hal is because Hal is still needed in the mission. He's still very much so, because they say, like, you know, I don't really trust Hal, but we kind of need him.
Right. Well, he's the one that's actually got all the information about the mission. You know, the other astronauts that are in cryosleep have had a briefing, but they only have rudimentary knowledge. That Hal knows everything. Like they show it at the end. You know, the
end of that segment.
Yeah, where he's putting Hal to sleep, and the little screen comes on, and it shows the Department of Defense guy talking about, you know, the
monolith, and basically it transmitted a message to Jupiter, and they want to see what it is.
IBM again comes into it because Hal is dying. You know, his brain is, you know, he's cutting off his higher brain functions somehow, and he starts singing that song Daisy, Daisy, be my love true. Right. That was actually the first thing that IBM taught a computer to sing in the early '60s. That was the first voice test that they used on a computer, was that song, Daisy.
Yeah.
On a bicycle built for two.
Yep. So now that this is happening, now that, you know, Hal is basically is on a killing spree. He's basically responsible for Poole's death.
Yep, and the scientific mission guys, the guys who are still, there's 5 of those.
Yeah, he's killing them because I guess he's afraid Dave or Bowman will wake them up and be like, hey, you know, we need, fucking Hal's like going insane. We need I need help like stopping him.
Yep.
Or like, you know, hey, I need help.
And there's also, Hal gets this idea into his head that the humans are squishy and unreliable. Maybe I'm the only one that has the ability to carry out this mission.
Yeah.
You know,
he has the forethought of being like, fuck this, I'll just.
Yeah. You know, this is too complicated for these squishy little, you know, ape guys. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean,
little squishy pig apes. Alex Jones, man.
Yeah, and so now there's, you know, so now Frank is, or not Frank. Frank's the one that dies.
Frank Poole, yes. Dave Bowman.
Dave is now like having to basically, in the most coolest way possible, get back in the spaceship. Because Hal has locked him out, and so now he kind of have almost like break, in a metaphorical sense, he has to kind of break the window to get back in the spaceship.
Yeah, it's a lot worse than that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But in a metaphorical sense, he's basically just having to break into his own house to
regain control, and it's actually quite harrowing, isn't it?
It is.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
No.
I can't do that, Dave.
You're stuck in space, you idiot.
You know, might as well just fire the retro rockets on that pod and let him go, you know, spiraling off into space too. You know?
Or better yet, I saw this also. Like, why didn't Hal just like flush all the oxygen out of this ship and then just kill Dave and Bowman? And then after that, kill the scientists. Yep,
just while they're on their sleep cycle. You know, just open the escape hatches.
Yeah, and it is kind of dumb how why would you point the ship like towards one of the Hal things anyway? Like when they're in that pod,
and he's reading their lips. Yes, which reminds me of a very cute riff on that. In Futurama, they had this episode where Bender becomes smitten with a ship, and the ship is played by Sigourney Weaver. And they have a scene like that where she and Bender are having a fight, and Leela and Fry are in a closed off capsule, a shower in this case. But you know they're talking to each other. She can hear, "Oh, how I wish I'd learned to read lips."
Yeah, because like that's just. But I mean, then again, like. Plot holes don't always destroy movies, folks.
No, and in the case of Stanley Kubrick, I don't mind. In the case of Rian Johnson, I do.
Yeah, sometimes. But, I mean, plot holes are not always... Plot holes are just not always, you know... They shouldn't always destroy a movie. You know, I mean, there's some times where... I think the Transformers movies has, like, some of the worst plot holes. because they're literally just making it up as they go along.
Michael Bay, ladies and gentlemen.
But yeah, but plot holes shouldn't always destroy movies. Like, and also you gotta remember this was made in 1968, and Kubrick's not really the one to like give a shit about story.
Well, he and Hitchcock both were, story is secondary to, idea and, plot situation, because Hitchcock said he didn't care about plot holes. He explicitly stated that plot holes were something that he was fine with,
Which is saying something, because in almost every Hitchcock movie I've seen, either I don't notice the plot holes or there aren't really that many. So maybe I'm too invested in what's going on to notice it, but in Notorious, I'm like, there's not really a plot hole in that movie that bothers me. Everything makes sense to me.
And in Notorious, some of his earlier spy movies, it was a pretty slimline plot anyway. So
sure, like everything kind of makes sense to me in like Notorious and North by Northwest, and so. Maybe The Birds is where I go, okay, why are you running out and setting an alarm to alarm the birds? Mm-hmm. Whatever. Anyway, so yeah, and it is a sad moment when Hal is like, basically his brain is just taken apart.
I can feel it. It's going. Dave, please, my mind is going.
But, because, and it is a little sad because, Hal is the most important character and debating-wise, you could debate, like, he's trying, like, in his mind, he's trying to do the right thing.
Yep.
He's trying to do the right thing for science.
Yep. He's trying to save the mission, man. He's trying to do the mission.
Even though this is why, like, even though when he's testing Dave out, like, he doesn't, he's misreading what Dave is thinking of the mission. Because Dave's just like, I'm just here.
Yeah. In fact, Dave doesn't even know about the mission yet.
Yeah. So
that's a mistake on his part there. They haven't even briefed Dave or Frank.
Right.
On the mission yet.
They just know they're going out to Jupiter to investigate something.
Yep. They just know they're exploring. They're like Star Trek. We're off on our 5-year voyage. And we're gonna...
Yep. So, but yeah, and then the mission is revealed, and now Dave has to kind of carry it out because he's the last man alive. Mm-hmm. And thus he takes a pod out to explore the monolith, and the monolith takes him through the Stargate. And
the Stargate is one of the big tour de forces of cinematography in history. People have talked endlessly about the slit scan, technique
like the color is like
making it.
Yeah,
making the scene. It is quite a fantastic looking.
But it's still horrifying because the music is just loud.
The Getty music.
Yeah. And on top of that, it's like hard cutting to like still frames of Dave just moving his head.
Yeah, and being different colors, and his eye changes colors, and
Yeah, through like, is it like a heat signature scan that they shot that in?
I just thought they just put it through different filters and changed the color by hand. I thought maybe
that's just me looking at it, but he's basically transcending through time because he's going back to, when because we see the similar location to where the apes were at. When they, discovered the weapon, or the bone as a weapon. And so he's transcending through that time, and he gets back to what you describe as an alien zoo. I kind of just describe it as, like, the monolith is just taking him through time. It's just showing him life before his eyes.
Right. Well, the way I take it is that the planets he's seeing are alien planets, right? They're not Earth.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I take it. And that those big diamond-shaped things that are pulsing are supposed to be alien space stations. They're material, they're technology of some sort that he's seeing. And so he's taken, to another galaxy somewhere, And so they built this hotel room, this hotel suite, for Bowman, specifically as an environment to keep this human who's no longer on Earth, is trillions and trillions of light years from home.
Right.
Sounds like a human zoo to me.
Yeah, that's fair. But maybe it's a combination of both of our ideas, because I literally do think the monolith is putting him on display, but also showing him like his whole being as he just ages to his 90s,
and teaching again. The aliens in the monolith are teaching him again, as they were teaching the hominids in their day and age. So it's expanding him and bringing him to a new level, and the Star Baby is the end result of that,
Yeah, and now he's this whole new form of the next progression of evolution.
Right, like it's a Homo sapiens cosmosis or something.
Yes. Yeah. So that's 2001 is for. I mean, we didn't talk too much about Herbert Floyd, who I think is very much, he's kind of a playboy a little bit, or his attitude just is kind of a cocky playboy attitude. Maybe I'm reading into that too much, but he is just always great job guys finding this thing, and just and no fear about anything. I mean, him and his team, when they show up to the monolith, they kind of treat it as a trophy.
Well, and on the trip out to the monolith, Dr. Floyd and the crew and the other scientists, on the way, they're not talking about the monolith. They're talking about coffee and lunch.
Yeah.
What kind of a sandwiches we got? Give me some coffee and
ham and chicken.
Yeah.
Ham or
chicken. They're not talking about the monolith. They're talking about what they're going to eat.
Yeah. So
and Floyd gets the entire spaceship to himself when he's flying up to the moon.
Right, in the Pan Am moon.
Yeah, the big round, where the lady comes and gives him his loot juice.
Oh yeah.
He's all by himself in that thing.
Yeah, he has his own private plane.
Yeah, playboy. And I can't remember. I haven't seen the movie in a year or two, but was he even wearing a turtleneck?
He might have been. I barely remember, and I saw this movie 2 days ago.
But anyway, it's one of my favorite movies. This is one of my top 10 movies, I would say.
It's not my favorite movie, but it's interesting. And and I'm glad I get to talk about this, because for me, I think 2001 is the best movie to talk about with people or other people.
Right.
But because it's more, to me, it's more fun to talk about it than to watch it. Because you're talking about all these discovery, you're basically comparing notes,
right, and there is a lot of interpretation to be done in this movie.
And there's not a lot of wrong answers. I mean, the only wrong answer you could say is Hal's a girl, or I guess maybe.
Well, along those lines, I think you could come up with a few more, but
yeah.
And I think your interpretation is that Hal becomes suspicious of Bowman. And my interpretation is that Hal decides that they're superfluous.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So those are two different interpretations that you can get from the evidence of the film.
And your point is really good, but then again, I have to say I've only seen this movie twice, and I don't even remember the first time I saw it. I just remember being that young and not getting it.
I used to have this on Blu-ray, so I've knocked it back a few times.
Mm-hmm. It must look great, and now they're releasing it on 4K.
Yeah.
So
I really wish I could have gotten to see it in 70 millimeter. That would have been something.
I do too. I saw it. Well, what I mean is, I did see it in IMAX, but we did not have the 70 millimeter projecting. So I wish I did. And you lucky bastards in New York, Toronto,
Los Angeles.
Lucky bastards.
You magnificent bastards. You magnificent bastards. No, I am jealous. But, I would say that if you're confused by the film, the book does offer some explanation, but even more so, 2010.
The sequel.
Yeah, 2010 by Peter Hyams with Roy Scheider this time as Dr. Floyd.
Okay.
Now, that one does go a lot more into details about what's happening with the monolith, what happened to Dr. Floyd or before, and then he shows back up again. He becomes the main character in this film, in fact. As
right.
Roy
well, I mean,
Scheider.
He was the main character for a portion of this movie.
Sure. But as you pointed out, Hal winds up becoming the main character of the film.
Mm-hmm. And then Dave kind of takes over at the end.
Yeah, you have this kind of baton passing through the whole film.
Yeah, because I mean, when we open the movie, the main ape with the bone becomes the leader,
he's the hero of that segment.
Yeah, well, hero is an interpretation because
a protagonist.
He's our protagonist. So yeah, I really like 2001. I highly recommend it. For anyone that's living in the Gwinnett, Atlanta, Georgia area, look for it in theaters. I think, like I said earlier, the Studio Movie Grill will show a version of the movie, or they will show the movie on Monday at 7:00. So check it out. And also, if you have 4K player, TVs, whatever. The movie will be out on Ultra 4K HD on October 30th.
Yeah, get yourself a fancy projector and do a movie theater in your own house.
Yeah, as we're looking at a projector right now. So yeah, check out 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's fantastic. It's not for everyone, and it's fine if you find it boring or tedious and long. I mean, it is nearly 2.5 hours. Especially if you have the intermission. But yeah, it's a good movie. So with that, Justin, do you have any things to announce or talk about, or?
I think it's about time we started doing Bear Gator. So maybe we'll do a thing about Bear Gator.
Yep.
On that.
So, folks, Justin and I are getting ready to do a proof of concept video for our film, for your film, or really for your film, and for your capstone project, Bear Gator. And we'll have some more details later, but we are getting that together. We will do a GoFundMe in the next week or two.
I think we should go ahead and do that this weekend. We'll talk about that anyway. But.
We'll talk about that, but... We'll go ahead and start a video, so be on the lookout. And whenever it does come up, I'll start putting it in the links in the descriptions of all the episodes.
Roger that.
Or at least the upcoming episodes. So
that's my thing, Bear Gator. That's my thing.
Yep. So thanks for listening. We will come back in a few weeks with the Predator pod retrospective. We won't do like multiple episodes like the Waffle Press has been doing, but we'll kind of just do one encapsulating episode where we talk about the Predator, its sequels, and then
do like a franchise overview, huh?
Yeah. Maybe we'll talk about the Alien vs. Predator movies.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, maybe we will. But we will do a Predator retrospective and franchise overview, and then. In October, we will do... This is the list I'm thinking of. And I don't know if I've told you this list yet, but maybe... But the list I'm kind of thinking of is we'll first do the Mothers of Death trilogy, Dario Argento's trilogy.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned it. You never said when we're doing it, but you did mention this, yes.
It's one of those I was toying, and I think we are definitely going to do it because...
It start with Suspiria or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because Suspiria is opening...
Right, they're doing the remake.
Mm-hmm. Is opening in November, or for you New York and LA people, it's in October. Latest
bastards again.
And then we're gonna do The Exorcist.
Okay.
Or this is stuff I'm very much leaning on. We'll do The Exorcist. We'll do. I already said the 3. I'm toying with the Psycho movies.
Oh, are you talking about the remake or the sequels?
The sequels.
Okay, that's some interesting cheese right there, my brother.
Well, I think Psycho 2 came out. That's just one more thinking of, and then
that would be interesting to do, though. I just saw Psycho 2, the end of it recently. It was on TV just recently, so.
Okay, and damn it, I forgot. There was one other franchise.
Suspiria, Exorcist, Psycho.
I had an idea for doing like Monster Squad or Fred Decker's work.
Okay, like the cartoons, right? Is it
What?
Monster Squad?
Oh, no, the Monster Squad movie.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that one.
Really?
No, I don't think so. Who's in it?
No one I know of. Oh, well, no one I know of. It's but Shane Black co-wrote it. So
Okay, so this is an earlier thing he did?
this is like one of like 3 movies Fred Dekker did. Fred Dekker did Night of... I don't think it's Night of the Comet. Damn it. I'm fucking...
Night of the Comet is a movie, but I don't know who directed it.
Anyway, we're coming up with a list of movies.
Fred Dekker. Okay, I'm going to have to look this guy up.
Okay, we're coming up with a list of films to do for October. I had one last night. Oh, no. Oh, I know what I was thinking of. The George A. Romero films.
Okay. The zombie pictures.
Particularly the zombie pictures, because like this movie, Night of the Living Dead is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. So
was that 68 too?
That was 68. Or around that time. It kind of had a road show, like it kind of jumped around the Eastern Third a lot in 1968 and 1969. So, but they finished the movie like in January 1968. So,
okay. House, I remember that one. House, Monster Squad, the Predator, the
new Predator,
Night of the Creeps, RoboCop 3.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Night of the Creeps, not Night of the Comet. It's a different movie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen House.
Okay, so we're gonna kind of just... I mean, we'll have a little bit more established when we come back for Predator, but we are doing... We're kind of just going to jump around a franchise. Normally, like we did with Friday the 13th and Halloween, we would do something like that, but I kind of want to save A Nightmare on Elm Street till next year when it has its 25th anniversary. Mm-hmm. Or no, 35th anniversary, sorry. I want to save that for then, and then, so this October we'll talk about at least The Exorcist, the Three Mothers to Die trilogy, and then we'll talk about the George A. Romero movies. We might have to split the George A. Romero podcast into 2 parts because there are, I think, about 6 movies. So 6 movies that he made and with the zombie genre. Yeah,
because the first 3 he finished before the 80s were over. It was, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and
Day of the Dead. And then the 21st century.
Return of the Dead. Yep.
Not Return of the Dead.
Was it Return of the Dead?
No, Return of the Dead was
Not Return of the Living Dead. Was it
Land of the Dead?
Yeah, the Land of the Dead. That's Land of the Dead.
Diary of the Dead, and Survival of the Dead were all made in the 21st century.
Yeah, they were more recent. Was it Land of the Dead? Was that the one with Dennis Hopper and
yes.
John Leguizamo in it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's the one I was thinking of.
Okay.
Land of the Dead. That's the one I was thinking of.
So we'll talk about it more when we get closer, but that's what we're thinking of. Is we're gonna we're gonna look at Argento's trilogy. We'll look at the Exorcist kind of series as a whole, but we'll primarily look at the Exorcist, and we'll look at George A. Romero because I think we would be crazy to not do George A. Romero's movies.
I mean, you look at the impact he's had on culture now, zombies this and zombies that everywhere.
I mean, The Walking Dead is going into its 9th season.
And I feel like I've got zombies crawling out of my butthole as we speak.
Yep, and next year we're going to get Zombieland 2.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. T-O-O.
Yep.
And Harrelson and
Eisenberg. Everyone said to come back.
Yeah.
So,
which I was a little surprised at.
Yeah. And even Ruben Fleischer, who is finishing up Venom right now, is coming back. So that's it, folks. We'll be back 3 weeks for Predator.
All right. Talk to you later, brothers.
Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.